Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our March 6th, 2018 regular meeting of the Mason County Commissioners. Jeremiah, where are you at? Jeremiah, would you do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, I would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Drexler.
Here.
Item number 4, correspondence and organizational business. 4.1, correspondence. Do you have any correspondence to come before this commission?
Yes, I have 2 items. So the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board sent a liquor license application for Eldon's Store at 36870 North US Highway 101 in Lilliwap. And the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board sent in 2 marijuana license applications. The first for Bayshore Cannabis Co. at 3831 Highway 3 in Shelton. The second for I-502 Gardens at 1069 West Camilchi Lane in Shelton.
Thank you. Item number 4.2. Let's go here to see how did we want to present that? Do you have a name? I know we have our participant. Do we want to have an introduction first? Jeremiah, do you have somebody that was here to introduce you also? Would you please, and then, because this is a very, very special time for us. There's been a lot of things we work on, and there's been many successes that we get an opportunity to witness, and this is one of them. So please, would you come up and...
No problem. My name is Renee Coliff. I'm the program manager of our Mason County Therapeutic.
could you come up to the podium,
Oh,
please?
sure,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. My name is Renee Coliff. I'm the program manager of our Mason County Therapeutic Courts, and I would like to introduce one of our drug court participants who is here to tell his story today, Jeremiah Welder.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jeremiah.
My name is Jeremiah Welder. 41 years old. I'm a participant in the therapeutic courts community here in Mason County. I feel I'm very grateful to be a participant in drug court. I also was very honored to be asked to do this morning. My life today is I feel it's a miracle. I've been given the opportunity to identify myself as a father, a student, a productive member of this community, and someone that a year ago was incarcerated. And so what I've done here is I've got some keynotes about things I wanted to touch on, and I also want to say that I'm very grateful to be living in Mason County, Washington. I'm very grateful to be an American, more so in my life than ever before has being an American meant something to me. I feel like since I've been able to become an honest person, that our society has helped me tremendously. This community has helped me tremendously. And I now have faith and hope, and I don't live in a world of fear anymore. I'm going to tell my story, so I know in recovery when someone tells their story, it's kind of where we were, what happened, and what it's like now. So I'm going to touch on some things briefly about where I was. When I was preparing to do this, to talk to you guys, I had to take a personal inventory of my life because I want to be honest and I want to talk about some really bad choices that I made in my life. But I also don't want to cast blame. I want to take responsibility for these things. So what I'm going to ask for is maybe a little empathy. I don't want to blame my parents for the choices that I made later on in life. My parents did the best that they could. I think I had a pretty good life growing up. I'm from Indiana. I moved around a lot as a kid, about every 2 years. I think the main thing that I lacked, even before I ever tried drugs or alcohol, excuse me, was I had no idea about the concept of acceptance. I had no coping skills to deal with my emotions. My emotions scared me, they overwhelmed me, and I was dishonest and manipulative as a child. And lots of children are dishonest and manipulative, but what happens when someone becomes a drug-addicted adult and they're dishonest and manipulative is, in my case, someone becomes a criminal. I became a criminal. Moving around every couple years as a child, I was a very good student early in life, but I would move, and for the first year I would be the new kid trying to gain acceptance. The second year I would find acceptance and I would thrive, and then I would be plucked from that community or that school and move. And it wasn't a move across town, it was several states. So I believe what happened in my case was that I became a people pleaser. It became more important for me to fit in and to gain acceptance as quickly as I could. And in doing so, I kind of traded in my values and my schoolwork and things of that nature. And I succumbed to peer pressure very easily. I have some history of drug addiction in my family. I was told when I was about 10 years old by a close relative that had gone to treatment and learned of the heredity of addiction and alcoholism and the gene concept and how it runs in the family, that I was an alcoholic at 10 years old. I had never drank, but I had this idea that I was already an alcoholic. I realized what this relative was trying to do was to help me, to scare me away from ever trying alcohol. But what I did was I ended up trying alcohol, and that threshold was gone. You know, I was already an alcoholic, so alcohol was never a very social thing for me. People call it a social lubricant, things like that. I was getting drunk as I could at the very beginning. And along with that came drugs and alcohol, or drugs and more drugs, and this lack of coping skills that I had at a very young age never developed. So through my adolescence and my high school years, when people learn how to deal with social anxiety, peer pressure, and reach developmental milestones in life, I did not do that. I have to grow up now at 41 years old, which can be a little painful, but I can't tell you that the benefits of it are amazing. So I started off my day today. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Every morning I call in to the UA line to see if I have a drug test. I've been doing this for almost 9 months now, and I really enjoy doing it because what drug court's given me is discipline and structure, and I didn't have that before at all. So without even knowing it, by calling in this line and hearing this answering machine that picks up and says, "Thank you for calling the Mason County Problem Solving Court UA line," I'm always reminded that for that day, my requirement, I'm working on solving a problem. That means something to me because I was in denial for a long time that I had a problem. And it also keeps me in the present. It keeps me living in the now, and every day I realize I have requirements that I have to meet. Now these concepts are probably nothing new to most of you, But to me, who, as a person that ran from responsibility and lived in fear for most of my life, this has been kind of a revolutionary process for me. So I appreciate that. I used to live in a state of opposition. I blamed everyone else. I had trouble taking accountability for my actions, and I was running from my consequences to the point where a couple years ago I had warrants in 3 counties. And I had a child that was born that instead of it being the happiest day of my life, I was petrified because I knew right after his birth I was supposed to go serve a prison sentence, and I wasn't willing to do that yet. So my plan was to run back to Indiana, never come back to Washington again, and that never worked out for me. I always got in trouble before I could make it. And I thank God today that that's what happened. I thank God today that I never could put together a feasible plan to run from my consequences. Because today these consequences have been a catalyst that have turned my life completely around. So I want to kind of just point out that before I ever did drugs and alcohol, I had serious problems that the drugs and alcohol just compounded. And they were enabling me to not deal with my issues. I had made choices, and I had traded my values in for instant gratification, which I think is a big thing for addicts. I kept running from my problems. I would move from Indiana to Washington and back and forth. My father had lived out here for several years, so I always had a way to get away from my problems. And sure enough, after I would move from one place to the other, my problems were right there. So what ended up happening with me is I made it 35 years with nothing more than a speeding ticket. Not to say that I didn't participate in criminal activity, but I did have some boundaries. You know, I did work and have my own places to live and such, but I wasn't an honest person, and I was someone that turned my family's love into something that was enabling me to continue to do harm to myself and to other people, which I feel like is one of the most insidious things about drug addiction, is that it can turn a mother's love into something that can potentially kill their child. No parent wants to see their child in pain and not be able to help them, but in a lot of cases with addiction, because of the manipulation and the danger of it, it can turn a mother's love into something very negative. Very, you know, I feel that my mother and father both did what they could to help me, but ultimately it kind of enabled me and kept me from growing up and learning some tough lessons that I was going to inevitably learn anyway. So I feel like my main issues in life were I had no spiritual connection. I had a void that I didn't know how to fill. I was scared of my emotions. I lived in a state of fear, and today I don't live there anymore. And another part of this is when I was preparing to do this, I was thinking about these things, and what I really want to do is to come in here and show the people in this community that have some influence and that care about this community how beneficial a program like Drug Court can be. It's not so much about me, it's about the next guy that needs this help. Mason County to me was a place that I dreaded because I didn't live here. I came up here and got in a bunch of trouble, and I felt like there was a guillotine here for me waiting. Eventually I would come and have to pay the piper, so to speak, but So Mason County and Washington State in general, because of my actions, were becoming a place that I didn't, I felt like this was the place I came and ruined my life. And what's happened since I've gone to prison and started drug court is it's a place that's saved my life. Shelton is very near and dear to me. The recovery community, the therapeutic courts, the treatment facilities here have had a tremendous positive impact on my life.
Can I ask you,
Yes, sir.
because, I started off, I was not a fan of these programs when I first got elected, and I started to see successes and see what they could do, such as yours. People like you that actually converted me to realizing that the great benefits of this, and your story in particular is very, very touching. What do you think was the most important aspect that drug court gave you that we need to provide for others to have an impact?
Positive reinforcement and the benefit of the doubt. As someone that developed a criminal mentality later in life, going to court, like I was saying earlier, and kind of my associations with Mason County in particular and going to court, I dreaded it, I feared it. And so what happened once I got to drug court is that I would show up and get a round of applause walking into a courtroom. I would show up and have people care about me. The team in drug court and the commissioner, it was probably the first time in my life I wanted to make people proud of me. And that felt good to me. I don't know why, that's just what happened. Because I would go to these, before I was accepted, I would go and observe drug court. And I was still struggling with addiction, but I had this little glimmer of hope that if I got into drug court, my life could get better. That I didn't know if I could succeed. I didn't know much more than that. I just had this little glimmer of hope. I had a termination trial set with my son for July 31st. I got out of inpatient July 10th. And when I was an inpatient, I had to come to I had to get rid of my reservations about using drugs or alcohol again. I was convicted in there enough to decide that if I lost this termination trial, if it went to trial and I lost it, and I had to lose the chance to parent my child, would I stay clean and sober through that? And I decided that I would. I decided that no matter how much contact I had with him, I would be a good example for him. And I started to care about myself. I learned what self-compassion was in there. And I learned what acceptance was in there. I learned that we don't have to approve of everything in this world, but life works a lot better if we can accept it. I've also, but to answer your question, I think that one of the huge dilemmas with drug addiction is how do you punish people that are gluttons for punishment? I looked at my life using drugs and alcohol as a very sadomasochistic existence. I was miserable. I was, there's a hierarchy of needs that people have. I stripped that down to living in a car with 3 dogs and a cat after having a house with a fenced-in yard for these animals. Living in places where I despised what I was around and what I was seeing, but yet I needed what these people had enough to trade in my morals to get this. That's horrible. I've witnessed some things that I couldn't believe that I was even there to see, and it's a horrible thing that the drugs and addiction is such it's a scourge. But like I was saying, I think that punishing, how do you punish people that are already so miserable before they go to prison? that kind of live in a prison out, even out out in the real world. It's a very challenging thing to think about. And the only thing that has worked for me has been the therapeutic court approach of positive reinforcement, looking at the criminal justice system as an asset, not an executioner. To go into court and have people that I have tremendous respect for give me support, and that's just meant a lot to me. It helped me turn my obstacles into opportunities. Today, my son lives with me. A couple months ago, one of the best days of my adult life, my life period, was when I got to put my son in a car seat and actually take him somewhere. He's over 2 years old now. That's the first time I've ever got to do that, was just a couple months ago. That had the most profound effect on me, because it meant I had done well enough that CPS and the powers that be had faith enough in me that I was safe to parent my child, and he was safe with me. That changed my life tremendously.
Jeremiah, how many more days or how much longer do you have, and what things do you have to achieve to finish the program?
I'll be eligible to phase up to the third and final phase April 3rd. And then I believe another 4 months or so. So I'm looking at August, which is also, right around the same time that my dependency case with my son will be dismissed. We just started the 6-month in-home dependency trial period there, so that clock's ticking too. Drug court and the accountability from drug court, along with what I've been doing with CPS, has been it's been tremendously. It's helped the CPS process out tremendously.
For sure.
Because of what I've the treatment responsibilities, the clean time.
How long of clean time do you have?
I'll have 9 months on the 9th.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that.
Jeremiah, so first off, thank you so much for sharing all this with us this morning. The one thing that really kind of stood out to me was your saying about living in the state of opposition. That really resonated with me, and I might adopt that language for some other things. But what I'll let everybody else fill in the blanks. But what do you kind of envision for your life post graduation, and what are some of the things that are maybe on your horizon, and how can we continue to support you as a community going forward?
Well, I started at Olympic College in January. I got a post-prison education scholarship. I'm going to school right now to be a CDP, chemical dependency professional. My long-term goal is to be a history teacher. So I want to go to school and get a bachelor's and be a history teacher. One of the things that the community, I feel like, can do with people that have basically what I've encountered is I wound up with a pretty horrendous looking criminal record to employers, which that's the consequences of my actions, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to succeed despite that. And one thing that I've had to do is to look at what kind of fields can I work in, and what kind of fields would be beneficial for me to work in. And I believe that chemical dependency would be great for my recovery, helping others. The whole thing about sobriety and recovery, and the people that I've encountered that have achieved long-term sobriety and that are happy with their lives are the people that help others, the people that sponsor others, the people that that work with others. And so so I kind of see this as two ways this is positive for me. It's a field that will not discriminate against because of my criminal background, because most people in that profession are recovering addicts and alcoholics that have had problems with the law. And it's a way for me to give back to people that were right where I was. One of the things that I do is I go into the treatment center that I was an inpatient at, and I go in there every Thursdays and do an AA meeting. And so going in there and seeing these guys that have one day clean or a couple days clean, that are shaking and scared and their minds can't stop racing, that helps me tremendously to see that I'm right where I need to be. I don't need to get ahead of myself. I believe I have a daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition. And the beautiful thing about this is that, like my sponsor has said, that you can turn your character defects into assets for other people. And that to me means a lot.
You know, in closing, Jeremiah, I want to tell you, it was funny when we were doing the introduction. I don't know if you caught it, but for those of you that are at home, when you go into this program, you can quite often tell who it is in the room that's going into the program. Pop marks or different things that show who the person is that's going in for help. When I was reaching out to the audience to find out, I couldn't tell which one it was. Take a look at him. You can't tell the difference. And you know, on behalf of the commission, we want to thank you for coming here today. We asked you here because of your success, but I want to point out one thing in closing.
Sir.
Jeremiah, you are a successful man. You got knocked down a few times, but you stood up every time, and now you're getting your life back with your child and everything. In the world I come from, sir, that's called a successful man. Well done.
Thank you very much.
You got to admit, commissioners, that's one of the reasons why we do this. That's a program that we've actually expanded quite a bit on over the years. I'm glad we did. That's a standard testimony for success on that.
If I
Thank
may,
you.
yeah,
Please.
I just wanted to follow up for anybody watching on TV or here in the room. You pay 1/10% sales tax for this program. 60% of the funds that are raised through your sales tax and your purchases here in Mason County goes towards this program, a restorative justice program. I want to thank and acknowledge Harris Hartel, who first launched this restorative justice initiatives here in Mason County. And when we've gone from drug court to drug court, veterans court, family recovery court, reuniting families due to substance abuse and mental health disorders, and then to a mental health court. We hope to now expand to a juvenile recovery court, but this restorative justice is such an important part of our whole criminal justice system, and I hope citizens of Mason County will continue to support our restorative justice efforts.
Please.
And just, I think, also to echo Commissioner Drexler, but also to just say thanks to Sam and Renee for your work in the therapeutic courts, and Commissioner Sauerlander for his commitment to it as well. I think, comfortable speaking for the three of us, there are a few things that we enjoy more than seeing our therapeutic courts be successful, and so we appreciate all your efforts, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Enjoy your family, sir. You deserve it. All right. With that, let's back to the regular program. Item number 4.3, public notice, spring application of herbicides for vegetation control along county roads on or after Wednesday, March 7th.
This is indicative of the depth and breadth of Mason County government.
Yeah.
My name's John Hustis. I'm with the Mason County Public Works Department. I'm the county engineer, and I'm here just to read a notice about our application, our spring application of herbicides along county roads. Mason County Department of Public Works will begin the spring application of herbicides for vegetation control along county roads on or after Wednesday, March 7, 2018, the weather permitting. For a detailed list of roads affected by the herbicide application program, you can contact Mason County Department of Public Works at 360-427-9670, extension 450, or visit the county website at www.co.mason.wa.us. Property owners that are adjacent to the areas to be sprayed, that do not want spraying to take place on their property or adjacent to their property, they can enroll in a program called the Owner Will Maintain. And they can do this by contacting the Public Works Department. For those property owners who've already enrolled in this program and designated their properties as no spray, they will not need to contact the Public Works office. Their property will not be sprayed. This notice is going to be published in the Shelton Journal on 3/8 and 3/15 for people that didn't get to hear it here today. Are there any questions
Thank you.
about this?
Oh, there is actually. Wow, I don't think that we've had that happen, please.
How far in, off of the roadway, how far in from the road does your spraying?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly. I imagine it varies a little bit, but generally we're, probably trying to maintain within 10 feet or so.
But we can also get your information and make sure you get the exact
Yeah.
numbers that we did.
Yeah, if you're interested, you can contact Public Works. And,
Yes.
I'm sorry, you gave me 360-427, and it was at 97, what was the last one?
9670, extension 450. Or
Yes.
look on,
Please.
I'd like to know what kind of herbicides are you using?
I think there's a couple of different ones. I'm not very familiar with those, but if you contact our office, or the folks that are in charge of those operations can give you more detailed information.
Well, I had noticed that in the last few years, it was just right around the edge of the ditch line, at the side of the road, not across the ditch and on other properties. Because we had problems with that years ago, of those sprays just coming clear out into pasture lands and in people's yards.
Okay.
And there was a lot of dissension about that, and it was stopped for a while, and then it started to come back. But the way they've been doing it hasn't been all that bad. But I will contact them. Find out.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Spring is in air.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Okay, so next up is our open forum for citizens' input. This is your opportunity, citizens, to talk with the commission regarding issues that are not on the agenda. If they are on the agenda, we ask that you wait until we go through the agenda, and you'll be given an opportunity to testify at that time. But if it's not on the agenda, you'd like to have a discussion with the commission, you'll be given up to 5 minutes per person, but we ask that you be briefer than that because there's only a 15-minute total window that is allowed for this. So with that being said, we just ask that you raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, come up, speak to the commission, and remember, always be respectful as we'll be respectful with you. With that being said, is there anybody who would like to testify? Go ahead.
James Manley, 400 East Phillips Lake Loop Road. I attended a meeting last week at Spencer Lake Resort, and there were quite a few, I think there's probably 30 to 40 people who had attended that meeting, and it was a nice meeting with the police sheriff. One of the things that came up that was a major concern to many people that were there was about jail or jail spaces. And it came to our attention something about they didn't have room to put people away once they picked them up. And so I asked a few more questions that I didn't really find answers there, and they said, yes, I come here and speak with you. I've set up an appointment for Friday, you and I, to meet actually. But before we meet, one of the things that I wanted to get some information on, or find it probably is online somewhere, is the comp plan or something on it.
Comprehensive plan?
Comprehensive plan. I was wondering if I was going to find anything about jails in there, or if you've got a long-term plan.
We have a
thing that-
facility comprehensive plan that would include stuff like that.
That's probably what I was liking. Is that something I can
Yes.
find?
Yes, and we can get it, we can get you connected with our staff out here to show you where it is online.
Okay.
And, any questions you have,
That's,
it's
if
all-
I can
it's
get
all
that,
for you.
I have a meeting with you on Friday at 10, and so we can chat a little bit more.
I can
about
have
a few
that
things.
actually printed up and ready for you if you can't get it online.
I would probably like that. Given one last thing of information, who is this new guy who's coming in and creating havoc, I suppose, but I'm just recently moved on to Phillips Lake. It's been a weekend resort place for us for many years. but I came from Milton, where I was on the council for 4 terms, before that 4 terms with the Planning Commission, and then was Mayor Pro Tem of Milton until I moved down here. So I've got some background on some of the things and looking where they're at and trying to get it. And everyone told me as I moved down here that you'll probably soon be involved with things down there. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that again. Here I am.
Actually, I want to share with the commission, I hadn't spoken with him, but through the message, there was an odd thing that was thrown in, that he would like to talk to me and that he had possible solutions. That's a heck of a...
I don't...
I loved it. I was... That's what we always hope. We try our best to always come up with solutions. That's our job. But the truth is, everybody else's ideas and proposals are very valid, and it's great to have somebody that's willing to offer up some possible solutions.
Seeing a few things from where I came from, I might be able to come back to you. And I've had enough time in your seat to say, okay, you want to come and just complain about stuff, that's just wonderful, but what do you think we ought to be doing about it? And so that was my answer almost always back out to him.
Thank
So
you very much for being
try to go
positive and
that way.
proactive.
Mr. Manley, I just wanted to share that there's almost an immediate opportunity to become involved.
Oh, no, that's right.
We are going to be forming soon a citizens committee for budget,
Yeah.
for sustainable budgeting, and fiscal sustainability here in the county. And given your experience, I think you'd be an ideal member of
That is,
committee.
well done, Commissioner. Pretty impressive.
Okay.
You've
Yeah,
got-
probably something I'd,
Oh, you're going to be tasked.
right.
That's a big one, too. That's a...
Yeah, the budget, yes.
Well, enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
We have a budget to read.
Is there any other comments? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 6, which is the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move the adoption of today's agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for the adoption of the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There is no opposed. We move forward. Item number 7, approval of the minutes.
I just want to explain, we have a set of minutes that we have found from 2016 that were never really officially approved. So I am moving the approval of the February 23rd, 2016 regular meeting minutes, February 6th, February 20, and February 27 regular meeting minutes of
Second.
2018.
Second.
So it is not a typo. So it's been moved and seconded for the approval of the minutes. February 23rd, 2016 regular meeting minutes, February 6th, February 20th, and February 27th, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Are there any additions, subtractions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the minutes are approved. Next up is our approval of the action agenda. All items listed under the action agenda may be enacted by one motion unless a commissioner or citizen requests the item be removed from the action agenda and considered as a separate item. What we will do as a commission is we will read them to you out loud, and afterwards we will give you the opportunity to ask a question that would help you to decide whether to take it off or have it taken off at that time. If you'd like to testify about any issue on here, that's your opportunity to have it taken off so that you can testify. Other than that, it's an action agenda and it'll be voted on with one vote. Commissioner Schutte, would you please read item number 8.1 through 8.5? I will read item number 8.6 through 8.9, and Commissioner Drexler, if you would read 8.10 through 8.14.
Mr. Chair, item 8.1, approval of the public safety testing to provide corrections corporal and sergeant promotional written and assessment center testing in the amount of $7,675 plus associated travel expenses as outlined in the agreement. 8.2, approval to appoint Patricia Geralds and Laurelyn F. Rogers to the Mason County Historic Preservation Commission to fill the balance of terms ending in November 2019. Item 8.3, approval of warrants and treasurer electronic remittances. Direct deposit fund warrant numbers 47913 through 48275 in the amount of $669,009.33. Salary clearing fund warrant numbers 7003438 through 7003466 in the amount of $475,843.44 for a total of $1,144,942.77. Item 8.4, approval to appoint Tamara Cowles to the Noxious Weed Control Board representing Weed Control District 3 for a term ending March 6, 2022. And item 8.5, approval to appoint Joel Harper to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging for term ending March 6, 2020.
Thank you, Commissioner Shitty. Item number 8.6, approval to authorize Public Works to procure a consultant to assist with collecting roadway data and creating the county road safety plan, as well as authorize the chair to sign all pertinent documents. Item number 8.7, approval to authorize Public Works to sole source the purchase services/parts from Hubbard Technology, the manufacturer of the screen units used at the Belfair Water Reclamation Facility. Item number 8.8, approval to authorize the county engineer to execute the Federal Lands Access Program proposal for a road realignment project on the Skokomish Valley Road, as well as approval to authorize the chair to sign all pertinent documents for the project. Item number 8.9, approval to authorize Public Works to purchase a used 2016 Caterpillar CS54B vibratory soil compactor from NC Machinery at a special market condition price in the amount of $97,584.90.
Item 8.10, approval to set a public hearing on Tuesday, March 27, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. to inform citizens of the availability of funds and eligible uses of the State Community Development Block Grant and receive comments on proposed activities, specifically funding the Community Action Council of the Lewis, Mason, and Thurston counties, as well as receive comments on the 2017 program. 8.11, approval of the following Mason County officers, employees, and volunteers' request for defense and indemnification coverage as named defendants in the Megan Elliott Civil Action 3:17 CV 06067 RJB United States District Court case, served upon them on January 9, 2018. They are Joel Nault, George Albertson, Alfonso Mercado, William Philpott, Casey Salisbury, Jeff Rhodes, Jim Barrett, Matthew Gray, Nathan Smith, Russ Osterhout, Ryan Sperling, Tim Ripp, and Trevor Severance. Item 8.12, approval of 2 winter 2018 Mason County Heritage Grants. The first to the Mason County Historical Society in the amount of $4,500, the second to Pickering Community Club in the amount of $3,049.29, for a grand total of $7,549.29. Item 8.13, approval to sign a letter to Governor Inslee regarding the Economic Opportunity Zone, EOC, program created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act passed by Congress in 2017. I think that's 20. Is it 2007?
17.
Item 8.14, approval to have the board sign a 1-year Mason County Park host contract with Clayton Casto for Sand Hill Park with a provision for extending additional years upon agreement from both parties.
Now that these have been read to you and the public, this is your opportunity to ask a question that may help you decide whether or not to have something taken off for a separate vote. Is there anybody who has any questions? There was?
Sure.
Oh,
Item 8.3 is actually $90 off on the addition. I don't know which one it is.
Oh, we didn't carry the 1. 5,
let's
8,
let's pull that one and clarify
okay.
in the discussion so that there's no issue with that in the future. Thank you very much. Good catch. Any other questions? Then we'll begin with, are there any items you'd like taken off for a separate vote? We'd like to ask automatically that number 8.3 come off for a separate vote. Yes.
What does the economic opportunity zone consist of?
Sure.
Yeah, so as part of the tax reform package that was passed late last year by Congress, there's a provision in there that establishes what's called economic opportunity zones throughout the United States, and those are designated based on census data and demographics, and so areas that are considered economically distressed. And Mason County has a few of those census designated areas in the county, and this is a letter to Governor Inslee asking for those to be nominated to the Department of Treasury, the Federal Department of Treasury, so that they can be considered for private investment to provide for economic development.
Any further questions? Are there any other items anybody wants taken off for us? Go ahead.
What's the Mason County officers, that are involved with those Nathan Elliott suit?
If I may, on that one, I want to make something clear. When somebody does lawsuits against the county, sometimes they just blanket. There is no connection with anybody with anything specific, but if they are put into any lawsuit, we are trying to make sure that they are covered. So there is no inference that they did anything wrong. It's just quite often a tool that is used by people that go after the county to throw all their names in it and try to make something stick. So we're just indemnifying so that they're protected in the act of doing their duty.
And more specifically, they were named in the lawsuit. We have a policy where we will, the commission makes an affirmative vote whether or not the county will use their resources to defend them.
And so this is saying that we will, if we need to.
We will defend them, yes.
Any other items anybody like taken off for separate vote? Commissioners, any items taken off for separate vote? Other than
So we've
item
already moved
8.3.
8.3, okay. No.
Then I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of items 8.1 through 8.14, removing item 8.3 for approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded for the approval of action agenda items 8.1 through 8.14 with the removal of item 8.3, which will be voted on in a separate motion. Any further discussion or comments?
I want to specifically call out and thank Commissioner Schutte for bringing item 8.13, the Economic Opportunity Zone opportunity, to our attention, and I appreciate the catch on that we can be active on it. I have not heard much about it anywhere else, and so I'm very much impressed and thank you for that. I also want to congratulate the Mason County Heritage Grant Award winners. The Mason Historical Society will be digitizing a number of very old photos, family photos especially, that are important to the history of Mason County. And then the Pickering Community Club have a really fun project, and that's rebuilding a shed that was once used during World War II as a identifier for airplanes, et cetera, kind of a citizen committee to take a look out and watch out for the enemies coming into our territories. And congratulate both of those organizations.
I'm going to jump in front of you for a second
Sure,
because I'm going to
please.
compliment you also.
Well, I'll take it.
Well, first I'm going to give a shout out to Cindy Tickner and the great work she did in bringing down the cost and saving us money when it came to the compactor stuff that we're purchasing. We already commented on the employees that are being indemnified, and to make it clear, sometimes they just throw names all in there, and it doesn't mean that they've done anything, but our job is to defend them, and if we believe that they are innocent, and that's what we're doing here. But a big shout out to Commissioner Schutte, because I want to point out, I work real hard, especially in North Mesa. I'm one of those weird people that are constantly asking businesses to come here. I don't care where I go, I ask all the time. I hadn't seen this also before Commissioner Schutte brought this forward. When he brought this forward, what he actually, if we're successful, what this will do is give me an actual tool to offer up to actually bring those businesses here, other than just this very unpretty face. Having a tool, we've been very successful now. I could just imagine what it'd be like if we're successful in getting what he's brought forward, to offer tax breaks to somebody to come and bring their businesses here. So, pat on the back on that. If we're successful, I think it will help our county immensely.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that's most exciting about this is counties are very limited in what they're able to do in terms of offering incentives to attract employers to a county. Much more limited than even cities, and certainly much more limited than the state. And so this gives us another tool that we can use to help bring jobs and opportunity to Mason County. I think in particular in the north end of the county, where we're looking at some pretty exciting infrastructure projects to help spur some development up that way. And so I'm really hopeful that Governor Inslee will come through for us and consider Mason County as part of this program. And I appreciate the support of Commissioner Netherland and Drexler on this, and look forward to getting this out today. And one other item I wanted to touch on briefly was item 8.8, the approval to authorize county engineer to execute the federal lands access program proposal for the road realignment project in the Skokomish Valley. Appreciate John Hustis coming forward with this funding option for us as we look at projects out in the Skokomish Valley. Has kind of a dual benefit. If you've been following the work of the Conservation District, dual benefit in that it provides for improving habitat, but also would help give some flood relief for residents out in the valley. And so appreciate all of his work on this application and look forward to moving this on out to the federal government as well.
Excellent. Any further comments? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The action agenda passes. Item number 8.3, approval of warrants and treasurer's electronic remittance. Would you like to?
Mr. Chair, I would move the approval of warrants and treasurer electronic remittance. Direct deposit fund warrants number 7913 through 48275 for $669,009.33. The salary clearing fund warrants number 7003438 through 7003466, totaling $475,843.44, with a grand total of $1,144,852.77. And I think we have another citizen budget committee qualified person.
The devil's in the details. I will second that motion.
All right, it's moved and seconded for the approval of the warrants and treasurer electronic remittances. Direct deposit fund warrants number 47913 through 48275 for the amount of $669,009.33. Salary clearings fund warrants number 7003438 through 7003466 for the amount of $475,843.44 for a total of $1,144,852.77. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, it is passed. Okay, next up on the agenda is item number 9, which is our other business, department heads and elected officials. Are there any department heads or elected officials who would like to speak to the commission at this time? Hearing none, we'll move forward to, we have no hearing, so we'll move to board reports and calendars. Commissioner Drexler, if you wouldn't mind going first, and Commissioner Schutte next, and I will follow up.
Okay. Last week I had a chance to meet with Andy Arness, who's the City of Shelton Economic Development Director and Communications Officer, and we discussed the consultant projects that are moving forward and opportunities for the city and the county to work together. I met with representatives from the Green Diamond Company regarding some of the struggles they're having getting their projects off the ground, and I appreciate the quick responses from our Community Services Department with some potential options to help get some of their projects moving. We need the housing really badly. They have some housing projects. Had a meeting of the Community Action Council, and then I did attend, listen to the governor's address the Washington State Association of County Legislative Steering Committee. Interesting discussion. Unfortunately, he wasn't always quite meeting us where we needed him to meet us as far as county concerns. And then had a very, very productive strategic planning session of the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization as we prepare for the integration of primary care and behavioral health services that are Medicaid funded in 2020. There's a lot of unknowns out there, so I'm very proud of the governing board and the staff's work to be nimble and to be able to have multifaceted approach to make sure that we are continuing the types of mental health and substance abuse services in the county that is preventative before it gets to the crisis level. I've said this before, I'm just going to keep saying it. The way the legislature and the healthcare authorities seem to think county's role in behavioral health services is simply in the crisis level, which means our jails, and our jails are not mental health facilities. We are doing everything we can. The Mason County Triage Center, the old PUD building, has been approved we have the final engineering, and it is now in the permitting process, and that will be a huge piece of how we can help address some of the problems here in Mason County, as well as addressing the changes that will happen in state law as we move forward. I met with a not yet declared candidate, the filed candidate for my seat, yesterday, and spoke about some of the issues that I hope that would be continued once I leave office in December. And then had a discussion with Grace Harbor County Commissioner about transient deaths. I thought it was really interesting. He said that they've had quite a spike of transient deaths in Grace Harbor County and asked if we'd seen the same here in Mason County. He spoke with a coroner, and in his 10 years as a coroner, he's not. So kind of interesting that we have one issue that's a major one in one county, and it doesn't even affect ours that you would think would not have county line significance. Tomorrow I'll be meeting with the Oakland Bay Clean Water District, and then I will be attending the Mason Transit Authority public meeting to go through the different options for intersection control for the new park and ride, which will feed out to SR3 north of the core of Belfair. So this will be a very interesting discussion, as well as just hearing the community in the community's thoughts around the different intersection controls. I'll meet with Scott Brewer from the Howard Canal Coordinating Council, and then I'll have a meeting of the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance, which is our accountable community health region team. And then I'll have a meeting of the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization on Friday, and then the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Executive Committee meeting, and then back here on Monday for briefings.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So last week I was also at the meeting with Governor Inslee and the Association of Counties. It's interesting to sit in the meeting with the governor and hear his views on sort of work being done in the legislature, but also how that trickles down to counties. And I'm glad Commissioner Drexler was there to hear the things that we talked about, and we have a similar, I think, takeaway from that is we're close, but we're not quite there. And I think we have a lot of opportunity to work on issues, particularly around mental health and opioids. I think that's probably where we're both the closest on counties and the governor in terms of identifying the problem and working towards a solution. One of the other hot topics, of course, given our governor's past, is his carbon tax proposals. And while we were there, the carbon tax bill that he was supporting was still alive in the legislative process. It since appears to be no longer moving with just 2 days left in the legislative session. And a lot of commissioners from various backgrounds and various political leanings all kind of express similar concerns with the governor's carbon tax plan. And it's not an abandonment of a conversation around climate change or global warming or any of those things. It's how do we afford this at the local government level? And in particular, hearing from other commissioners when we were talking about the cost of fueling our sheriff's deputies' patrol vehicles and the amount of time that they're on the road and the amount of gas that they take, to filling potholes, how much it would drive up costs for the machinery, fueling those up, but also purchasing the supplies. Use a lot of oil and that kind of thing when you're doing road work. And so we had a lot of concerns around what the cost would be, and the only solution that the governor was able to offer on that was that it would create about a $700 million fund, these tax dollars we put into a fund that counties could compete with, not only other counties, but other organizations, in order to get a little bit of this money. A couple of catches to that. One, he admitted, smaller counties like ours wouldn't really be competitive in those grants because we don't have the resources to put into it. And the other part of it was that it's for new projects. So we couldn't put in to fund the increase in operation costs that we would be seeing. So for all intents and purposes, I'm very glad to see that proposal did not continue on through the legislative process. And I think the emphasis that we've had this year, and probably for the past couple of years, but it's really starting to get to a breaking point from the local government perspective, is great, have ideas, have us be a part of the process, have us be a part of that conversation on the front end so that we can address these issues and we don't have to come out and oppose every idea that you have. And that message is the same for the governor as it is for members of the legislature as well. We all share the same constituents, and we're all trying to achieve similar goals. And so we need to be a part of that process on the front end. So I'll get off of my soapbox with that, but I do appreciate the governor taking the time to sit down with commissioners and council members from across the state. It's important for him to hear from us and from us on your behalf. Also, last week I had a great conversation with Andrea Roper from Congressman Kilmer's office. She's his district director, and part of the conversation was the federal lands application that we're putting in, and so trying to make sure that we can build a coalition of support at the federal level for those projects here happening locally, so that we can address some of the funding concerns alongside of that. I also had a good meeting up at North Mason Resources. As part of my, that was the final stop on the sort of mental health and service provider field trip tour that I've taken at the beginning of this year, and so it was a good place to end and hear about the good work that's happening at North Mason Resources. Going forward after this, I have a meeting with Shelton City Commissioner Kevin Dorsey. I understand there's also going to be a drug court graduation here this afternoon that I'm going to try to get to if possible. Tomorrow morning, I will be stopping by the North Mason Opioid Coalition meeting, get an update from them. Later in the week, meeting with Tim Whitehead, our Chief Civil Deputy Prosecutor, meeting also with Scott Brewer on Thursday. Have Rotary, and then a Legislative Steering Committee webinar. Hopefully this will put the bow on the legislative session, and we can all go back and lick our wounds and see see the good work the legislature did on our behalf, but also be realistic in getting an update on where the budget ended up and things that we can maybe start looking forward to for the 2019 session. And then also this weekend I'll be doing a ride-along with Sheriff's Corporal Nathan Berklet and his K-9 partner. So I'll be out and about on Saturday evening, and definitely appreciate the opportunity to do that. And then back here Monday morning for briefings.
Okay, now first I apologize. My phone, I'm going to have to break down and just let him give you another one. I don't like change on these things, but it dumped my stuff again. So my apologies, but I think I have most of it. First of all, I attended that PowerPoint with Washington State University and WASAC, North Mason Chamber of Commerce luncheon. I met with several candidates for different positions that are running for office for both the city and two for the different positions in the county. Attended the Women's Republican, where we listened to other candidates that are running for the city's position. Mount Moriah had an interview on KMAS, conversations with school board members. We had a meet and greet for the EDC's interim director, Jim Toomey. A very interesting guy. I think he's going to do some wonderful things, but it's coming out that for sure he's going to be interim only. Then we also had our briefings. That's what I remember here. Now, afterwards, I'm going to be trying to attend the drug court as well. I have a meeting with, I'm saying because they're here, with Randy Lewis. After this one, I have a meeting with Ms. Manley on Friday, and other stakeholder, other constituents in between. I have an ARC board meeting. You and I will both be at the opioid stakeholder meeting, also for the public to know. I have an EDC board meeting, the ARC retreat, and the regular ARC meeting. I will also be attending the Mason Transit roundabout.
You're already choosing.
Yeah, no, that's the way she said it to me. The conversation on different options, including roundabouts and stuff up in the North Mason region off of Log Yard Road for access to the transit authority.
She kind of did it in a roundabout way.
Yeah. Let's see. Trails in Lake has asked me to come up to their potluck. They have some issues they'd like to talk over. Briefings. I'm waiting for confirmation. Maria Cantwell wants to meet with me in regards to the stuff that we're doing with opioid addictions and what they could probably do to help us. And that brings us back to the briefings and our regular set of business. All right. With that being said, is there anything further to come before this commission?
One last thing. Thank you for the edits on the letter to the governor. I think they're very, very good ones.
Great.
All right. If there's no objection, we are at the end of our agenda, and it calls for adjournment. No objection, we are adjourned.
You're here.